Hey everyone, someone sent me a message today asking if I could outline the process that my husband and I go through when we plan our year, when we do our visioning together. Because I've been posting a lot about the importance of setting goals and planning your year. And I've been talking a lot about how to do that for yourself, but I don't think I talked a lot about how I do that with John, my husband. So I'm gonna break that down for you here. And by the way, I love when people send me messages and request breakdowns of something that they don't understand fully, or that, I talked about a little bit but maybe didn't answer the right question. So if there's anything that ever comes up for you, please send me a message. I'd be happy to answer your question on either a video or a post. So here we go with this one. As far as planning your year together as a couple, if you've never done it before and this is your first year, the first thing I would say is give yourself time. Give yourself time to figure out what works for you. This is a very personal exercise as a couple to do. So give yourself time to kind of work out the kinks, and you'll be able to give yourself that time because it's not just a once and done exercise. It's something that you want to check in with each other about once a quarter. And then there's other periodic check-ins that I'll talk about in a little bit that I highly recommend you do as a couple to stay on the same page. But visioning together is so important because it just kind of shares your own personal goals, expectations, and not only the expectation piece of like, if one of you is like, hey, we should have another baby this year, and the other one's like, I want to quit my job and move. Like, those are two conflicting goals that it'd be really nice to make sure like the other person knew where you were at with things. So from an expectation standpoint, but then from a support standpoint, because when we're going after certain goals, the accountability is an amazing thing to have from your spouse, but also the support. Like if you need to invest in any resources or go to any retreats or learn new skills, adapt yourself as a human being, you need somebody on your team and on your side, and there's nobody better than the person you've chosen to spend your life with. So with that, what I recommend that you do is spend some time visioning separately first. So you can do this in a big way where you're spending a couple of hours, you're going through my visioning document. If you don't have that, send me a message, I can get it to you. But you're going through and you're reflecting on the last year, you're looking at your habits, you're looking at your limiting beliefs, and you're really digging into it. And at the end, you come out with 10 things that you want to happen this year, 10 things. And that's part of what you'll bring into your conversation with your partner or spouse. But if you're new to this and you're just looking to get started, then I would say just write down 10 things that you want to happen this year. Things you want to do, things you want to happen, and then also the resources that you would need to make it happen. Because you'll look over your goals or your list of things and you're like, oh, I need to learn this skill set, or I need to invest in this product, or we need to make sure that if one of the things you want to happen is to pay off your debt, you need to make sure that you're investing in the best kind of budgeting. So you might need to brush up on resources, things like that. You get the idea. So the 10 things you want to happen, and then the resources and tools that you're going to need in order to reach those goals. And I have some notes here that I'm working off of. So yeah, first do it as an individual and then do it together. And if one of you is visioning like in a big way, you've done it a lot and you're really used to it and you're going to go deep, and the other person's just kind of dipping their toes in, that's okay. As long as you both have a list of 10 things you want to happen this year and the resources and support, kind of the ideas of support you're going to need from the other person, that's a huge, huge thing. That's the only thing you need to do it together. Then when you come together, you're going to review with one another, share with one another the 10 things you want to happen this year, and just kind of let the other person know, like, what do you envision for yourself? And some of those goals might include some things you want to do as a couple, but maybe some of them are just very personal, and just share that with your partner. And then also share the resources that you think you'll need. And the nice thing is the other person might recognize something that you haven't thought of in terms of something you're going to need to learn, or where you can get that resource, or they may know somebody that can help. So just share what you want to happen, share that with each other, and kind of give some time for feedback. And also there may be, again, if there's conflicting goals, allow yourselves to have that conversation. This is something that's been coming up with my spouse and I recently, where we've kind of had to talk through like, okay, if you want to do these things this year and I want to do these things, how are we going to make that work together as a couple? How is their time, and how can we make sure that we're still being there as a couple and for our family in the way that we need to, given the goals that each one has personally as individuals. So a bonus is to share your lessons learned or ahas over the year. And this is a great one to do when you're just like relaxing over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, whatever you enjoy, where you're sharing like your big lessons that you learned when you've reflected. And this is, again, if you're visioning in that big, deeper way where you're really looking back over the year, but share those ahas and big lessons learned with your spouse, because not only does it cement and reinforce your learning, but you might like help them out as well. You might help open their eyes to something that they hadn't seen. So that's a bonus, is to share your ahas of the year if you have those and if you've been keeping track. And then the next step, after you've shared the 10 things you want to happen as individuals, then work together to come up with 10 things you want to do or to happen or to be as a couple this year. So it could be things like 1 date night a month, 2 vacations a year with or without the kids. It could be goals around finances. It could be goals around, buying a house, having a baby. They could be big goals, things like that. Or they can just be like, I want to make sure that we're taking time to read together at the end of the night, or to spend some time at the end of each day sharing what we're grateful for. So they can be something that takes a very little amount of time, and then it could also be something that might take you the whole year to work toward as well. And then after you share and come up with this list of 10 things that you want to do as a couple, then you've got the calendar that you need to put together. And usually in a relationship, there's one person that's that calendar master, that's more organized. And so go with that. Don't expect the person who is, not usually the calendar keeper, like, don't expect them to transition into that. Just like take on that role. If you're going to be the person that's going to keep the calendar and also keep the goals and like kind of keep this momentum going with the two of you, like, that's okay. It doesn't need to be both of you all in. Usually there's one leader in different areas of the relationship. And so if that's you, if you're watching this, just take that on and say, I'm going to make sure we stay on track. So you'll be the person who is the calendar master. So you might want to look at your whole year and start to fill in maybe possible vacations or, goals when you want to achieve certain things by. But what we do is we, month by month, have a visible calendar on our refrigerator where it's all filled out, whether it's birthdays or days off or vacations or someone's out of town, whatever it is, we fill all that out. I fill all that out at the beginning of every month. And then every week, we also break that down. And the weekly thing is a game changer because it sets the expectation for the other person. So this is kind of getting detailed into once you've done your visioning, once you've planned. This is going further into how do you maintain that through the year. But you write out your weekly schedule of, when do you plan to be away from the home? When does, mom or dad need to pick up the kids from school? Or when is the schedule different? And it's really helpful because you can visually see what the other person is up to. And, if one person has plans with friends, it's good that that person knows that all week and has the expectations like, okay, yeah, Saturday I've got the kids all day. Or, Saturday, that's when we're working on certain house projects. Whatever it is, make sure you have that mapped out into your week. And then one extra planning thing that you can be doing, it's more of like a check-in to see where you're at, is to decide, okay, at the beginning of every month, we're going to fill out this calendar. And then every week, we're going to each put the things that we've got going on. And then there's a weekly exercise. I've shared this before, and I'm going to share it again here now because I think this helps you tie it back to your overall vision, the 10 things, like how are you going to make sure those 10 things happen as a couple? We call it our marriage state of the union. We started doing this, 4.5 years ago now. And the goal is every week to sit down and do it. But if you hit twice a month, I think that's really great as well. And you sit down and you review certain categories that are important in your marriage. And for us, the categories that we go over are family and household. So these are kind of the logistical things of, what do we have coming up this week? Oh, we got to get our daughter to the dentist. Oh, someone needs a physical, or, things like that are just like the weekly to-dos. Who do you got to call? Who do you have to check in with? What bill do you have to pay? Whatever it is. And then we go through finances as well. So, where are things at? Do we have anything big coming up? What are we paying off? What's the status of that? Just doesn't have to be long, this check-in, but just so you know that you're on the same page. We also go through our weekly aha moments. So the aha moments can come from things that you're reading, conversations that you've had, meditations, reflections, whatever it is. And some weeks there's not much to share. Some weeks you're just like in it and there's not much going on, but other weeks it's like, whoa, I was reading this finance book and I realized this huge limiting belief I had around money, or around, success, or around my feeling deserving of certain things. So sometimes there's really big things that come out of that, and those are really special things to share. And then we also go over business and personal. So whether you own your own business or whether you're working for someone else, to go through just what's going on big for you at work, again, so that other person can support you, give you ideas. If there's something you're struggling with at work, they can help you there. If there's something you're excited for, they can help you celebrate those wins as well. And then personal, just it goes back to that calendar. What do you plan on doing this week? For us, it's a lot of like, who's going to be where after work, what nights. I play volleyball, I do yoga with some friends during the week. My husband goes to kickboxing a couple nights a week. So we just always check in to see, okay, who's going to be home, who's responsible for the dog and our daughter, who's picking up when, so that nothing gets forgotten, but then also so that we don't run into like this butting heads, resentment during the week, because we're like, well, I didn't know that you were going to plan on doing that. If it's right there and it's visible, and if you talk about it, then it's just everything runs so much more smoothly, given that you're busy. So if you do that, if you plan your year and then you break it down in your calendar, and when you're planning your year too, try to come up with a few, the 10 things you want to do as a couple, try to come up with some like goal dates of like, I'd really love to take a vacation first quarter. I'd love to pay off this much debt by second quarter, and so that you have these check-ins so that when you're doing your master calendar, you can write down, this is when I want to have accomplished that. And then during those weekly meetings, every now and then pull out your 10 things and just see how you're doing with that. And if you need to add as a to-do, if you need to add date night in, if you haven't gotten it in that month, if you need to add that in, or you need to add in some of the things that you're working toward as a couple. So that's what we do. We're actually going to be doing our kind of couple planning tomorrow on New Year's Eve. We've done some things separately, and now we're going to come together and do our couples planning. So I hope you take time to do this exercise as well with your spouse. It's huge. It's huge for communication, like to know what's going on with that other person, to know how you can support them. If you're new to this and you watch this video and you still have questions though, please, like either in the comments or DM me. I'm happy to answer those questions if there was something I left out. And if you do the exercise and have any feedback about how it went, let me know that too, because I love to know what's important to you. I want to give you what you want and need. So that's it. I hope this was helpful, and I hope everybody enjoys their visioning together. Oh, one last tip. I have one more thing to say about it. Hopefully you're still on the video and watching, but when you're visioning together as a couple, try as much as you can to not worry about how it's going to get done. Just allow yourselves to dream of this is 10 things I would love to happen in our relationship, in our marriage, in our lives this year. Because when you start thinking about the how, that's when you start to only work within your current reality and your current experiences, your current knowledge. And so much of visioning is about things that you probably are going to need to learn to acquire or learn how to do and things like that. So if you stay stuck in the logical, this is what I want to do and here's how I'm going to do it, it keeps you playing small, versus if you start to really dream big about some ideas that you have, like they might scare you a little bit because you don't know how to do it. But if it's within your realm of possibility, the answer is out there. Just allow yourself to put the answer, the strategy, the action on the, your monthly planning sessions versus when you're visioning. So that's it. Stay away from the how and allow yourself to dream big when you're visioning together.